I've actually filmed quite a few videos on days that were half decent, and YouTube hasn't liked them for one reason or another, so I'll give it another go. I filmed one last week of this small dinghy, just a small inflatable that we got for our tender. Because the tender we had before, it used to be a 14-foot sailboat, and it was just too heavy and it filled up with water all the time, so every time it rained or there was a bit of wind, there was thousands of litres of water went in the old sailboat. So we got this thing off of Amazon. It was just one of the cheap ones. It's supposed to be a 4-man 450 kilo one, and as you can see, it folds away quite nice. It's in a bag, everything's inside it, and it's pretty decent. It does have a few drawbacks, which I'll go through, but for the money I paid, it will do for this year. I think this one was it was only 400 quid, and the smaller version was 300 quid. So, I'll show you it getting unpacked and inflating and things, because we're going to go over to the boat and we're going to change the mooring today. We got a big float for it, which will make it easier. And we'll just take you through this. As I said in the previous videos that I made, there's a group of young guys called Outside Your Zone. Now they're having adventures all over Europe just now, but they've got a small tender. It's like a catamaran, and eventually I'm going to get one of them because it looks really sturdy, and honestly it looks like a lot of fun. So I'll eventually save up and get one of them, but for now this wee thing will do. Even although it does have a few drawbacks, you know, we can deflate it and inflate it whenever we need. It allegedly weighs 37 kilos, so I can pick it up and throw it in the back of the car, and I'll put davits on the back of the boat and we can hang it from them. We've got this wee cheap Chinese outboard. It's a 6 horsepower allegedly, although sometimes I feel like I've got more power swimming against the current myself. It was cheap, but it's a 2-stroke, and it's quite a sensitive wee soul. It can take quite a bit of persuasion to run, especially from cold. And then if there's the slightest bit of wind, it doesn't seem to have any power. It was brand new to us. It's done less than 20 hours, so it's not as if it's an old machine that's just struggling. But it's just for the tender. You know, the tender, the transom says it's a maximum of 15 horsepower. I wouldn't put a 15 horsepower engine on that thing. It would be absolutely terrifying. And then we got this pump for it, because I thought, well, these dinghies, they usually go up to about 20 psi, and that is for a paddleboard, that pump, so it does up to 22 psi, and it saves a lot of pumping. And when you're taking the dinghy back down, it's got a suck function, so you can actually suck it, and it's almost like vacuum packing it, and it folds up really easy. But because this is the cheap Amazon version, the PSI on this is only 3.5, so you've got to be really careful and set it properly, or you'll end up with a thing like a big balloon bursting. I'll unpack it and I'll let you see how it goes, and then I'll take you out to the boat and I'll show you the big can that we've got for the mooring and things like that. Now, this is it here. I've got it unfolded. As you can see, it does pack away quite flat. You can get all the air out it quite well. And it comes with a wee aluminium bench seat and some folding paddles. It's also got these aluminium floorboards in it, which are quite strong. And it's got a decent transom on it. Only time will tell how good it actually is. But it's really handy. You know, you just bring it down in the bag, unroll it and pump it up pretty much anywhere. And then you can either tow it behind the boat, it weighs less than 40 kilos, or as I said, I can hang it off the davits on the back of the boat. And we can go pretty much anywhere with it, onto any of the islands or anything like that. So I'll start pumping it up and I'll take you through how easy it is and some of the drawbacks on it. Now, it's got 3 chambers on it, and it's just got these valves that you untwist the cap and you twist it on just the opposite with the pump. You've got to make sure, as I said, that the pump is down at 3.5 psi maximum, or you'll get a big pop balloon. There we go. It's pretty easy to pump it up. That pump pumps it up quite fast, and I've just got it hooked up to one of these wee booster pack inverter things, so I can take that with me anywhere as well. The only problem I find with the valves on it, it's not got the non-return valve, so as soon as you stop the pump and undo the hose, you've got to really be quick to get the cap on it, or you end up having to pump it back up again. But you see that it's pumping up relatively fast here. This is there's 2 pumps on it. It pumps up fast, and then once it gets pressure it goes on to the high pressure pump. You see the PSI going up on it now. And that was it kicking into the high pressure pump. Now, I've got that at 3.3 psi. As I said, trying to do this, you've got to be really fast and grab this wee thing and stick it back in. And I think it's going to be especially difficult doing it one-handed, but we'll give it a go. You see what I mean? And that's it already soft again. So it could really be doing with a valve that doesn't let the air back out. I'll pump these up and then I'll bring these back in and let you see. Now that's we got it all blown up and things, and I'm letting that wee outboard warm up for a bit. I love to say that it only took me 10 minutes to get it inflated and things, but it didn't, because this is quite rocky in here, so it's not perfect. But it's still a lot better than the tender we had before, which weighed, I think it was about 175 kilos, and as I said, it just filled up with water as soon as it looked like rain. I'm definitely going to get a different outboard, something that's 4-stroke, a lot quieter and maybe a wee bit more powerful, maybe one of the better brands. This thing will do us for now, but aye, definitely going to upgrade the outboard later on. But you know, we're looking for a catamaran, which is a story I'll get into a bit later on, so we'll need to buy some outboards for that. But for now I'm going to get loaded up and I'm going to get over to the boat, because I'm going to take the yellow buoys off and I've got a big grey blue plastic can for it to put on it, which will be a lot better for when it's stormy in the winter and things. So I'll get into the boat and we'll start heading over. Now this wee thing just on tickover is actually quite nice. You see the seals watching us. But aye, the wee outboard just on tickover, it's quite nice. As I said, I still want to get something that's a wee bit more robust. Something that's not quite as fragile. Quite a few seals out today, just watching us in the water. Aye, I think we do need a better outboard, because when you don't have faith in the outboard that you're using, you always worry, you know, when you're getting in and out and trying to go off the main boat. You always worry that it's just not going to work out. And here we are, over to my pride and joy. And while it's low tide, we'll get these buoys changed over. Now we'll put some steps on it, just to make things a bit easier, just for it to get in and out. They weren't too expensive, but they seem to work really well. As I said, they weren't too expensive, but they'll be really good later on in the year for diving and things like that. I've had to modify the back rail, and I'm going to have to weld some stainless steel up just to strengthen it. Maybe bring it down onto the davits or something, although that's a different type of metal, which would mean you would get the galvanic corrosion. But aye, we've made quite a few improvements to the boat already, and whenever I get a chance I'll take you through and show you everything. I know I keep on threatening that, but we will get there one of these days. Now we'll head over and we'll get the big blue can. A friend here actually gave it to me. As I was saying, it was a friend that's actually given it to us, so it's been a huge help. He's a really good guy and he's helped us out a lot this year. He's also very, very knowledgeable, so I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we already are. So I can't thank him enough. He's a great guy. And it looks almost like there's dinner on the bottom of it. As I said, this thing's got a few barnacles and mussels and things, and assorted other sea life. So I'll give that a scrape off. It'll prolong the life of the can, and it'll save the barnacles ripping holes in my new dinghy as well. Not that I'm being precious or anything, but aye, I'd rather keep it for a while. There's actually quite a lot on it, but these mussels and things, they'll be quite happy once they go back in the water. There's probably a much better way of doing this, but paint scraper works for just now. And then I'll give it a wee scrub up and I'll bring these back in to see once it's finished. You can actually see everything falling back into the water here. And now that the tide's up, you can see we've got about 6 metres of water depth, which is perfect for diving. Later on in the year when the water's warm, I'll dive down and I'll make sure that everything's okay with the chains and things on the bottom, and I'll just give it a service and put some new shackles and things on and just make sure everything's all happy. But anyway, I'll bring you back in once this is all done. We're being watched. We've got some visitors here that are watching what we're doing intently. Let's see if I can get this to focus. These two are last year's young. and they've been porpoising all the way around the bay and just chasing small fish since we came in today. But they're really curious, and as soon as we started doing stuff with scraping the barnacles and things off, they came in to investigate, and they've been swimming about underneath us. Try and get it to focus a bit. As soon as I get the camera out, they vanish. There must be a lot of fish and things in this wee bay, because there's about a dozen of these young guys and they seem to be doing really well, just in this one small area. Anyway, I'll get on with this buoy before it gets dark. We're being circled. Aye, I'll get on with this and I'll get it scraped off before it gets dark. As you can see, we've got the big yellow buoy on there just now, and the small one that used to be red has been bleached pink with the sun. So the UV seems to break them down over the years. So we'll get this big can on it and make it a lot more sturdy, because as we get up to high tide, that small pink one gets pulled under. So I need a lot more buoyancy, I think, because there's two 10-metre riser chains on that, and there's a concrete block on the bottom of it, and then there's 200 kilos of the 40mm chain, and it's a muddy seabed, so that's all been kind of sucked into the mud, which is really good for the mooring. We need a really sturdy anchor on the bottom, because we're only about 40 to 45 metres away from this rock, and at low tide, you know, we're really close to it, because the water drops about 4.5 metres here, which means it's about 4.5 metres closer to the rocks. And then when we get high tide, I think it's about 8 metres deep. As I said, I've got 10 metres of riser chain times 2, and then I've got the concrete block and the big thick chain that's sucked into the mud. So even in the 50-mile-an-hour winds we were getting recently, the boat was barely moving. We're fortunate that this is a really sheltered area and we don't really get affected by the winds, unless it's a northeasterly, and then we can get hammered a bit. Anyway, I'll crack on with this and I'll bring these back in once I'm in the wee boat ready to do what's needed. Now, we've finally got it done. The deck of my boat's absolutely destroyed with barnacles and things, as are my hands. I think I've got about 1,000 barnacle cuts on each finger, but we got there. And now we've got a nice big can there that's definitely not going to get submerged, and it's much easier for me to moor up on. So aye, that's a real success. Really happy at that. You can see the chain sinking down. So aye, I'd definitely call that a success. I've got the loop on the top there. When it's a stormy day, I've got this big 8 strand, and then I'll put another safety rope on there, and I've got 3 cleats here, so I can just double up, just make it double safe. Anyway, what a beautiful night. We've had the seals playing round about us the whole time. And the dinghy is still floating, thankfully, although it's a bit dirtier now than it was when we started. I managed not to get it destroyed with the barnacles. But aye, what a beautiful place. Even although I'm cut to ribbons, and it's probably taken me 2, maybe 3 hours longer than I thought. Still really blessed to live in a place like this and have a boat. You know, I really can't wait to go out and have adventures this year. So I'll leave yous there and we'll come back soon for other adventures. And maybe a tour of the boat and some maintenance, because there's quite a bit needing done on it. There we go, that's looking much better now. Definitely a lot safer and a lot easier for it to get when we're trying to moor up.